Welcome, friends. So I have 3 more coloring page transformations. Today I've got my Johanna Basford coloring book here, and today is going to be all about crickets. I am starting off with Jiminy Cricket, and I had this coloring page that was kind of this wreath shape with some flowers inside this wreaths. I added Jiminy Cricket with his umbrella, and I wanted to make it look like he was coming through this wreath of flowers onto the other side. So I put the umbrella on the inside and then had his hand and foot sticking out on the outside so it would look like he was coming through the page. It kind of looks like a portal, so maybe coming through this like portal. I did unfortunately lose a little bit of footage here, so we're starting about halfway through this. I'm coloring Jiminy with paint pens. I'm so glad that I bought these. I am a super cheapskate. I never like to spend any money, but the paint pens were totally worth the money. I can color any alterations I want with these paint pens, and it will cover up the lines of the coloring book page. So it's way easier than getting out a paint and a paintbrush. So if you are at all interested in altering coloring books, paint pens, I would highly recommend. So very useful. So all over this page, there's some random bits of color, and that's because on the other side, I tried to do a technique where you put down ink and then spray it with water, and it kind of like all blends together. And it was going great, and then when I sprayed it with water, it bled through on the other side. So once I got done coloring Jiminy, I outlined him with, unfortunately, just a regular ballpoint pen because I could not find my gel pen. For the color scheme, I kept it mostly just this yellow and blues. I did throw in one set of orange flowers just for a little bit of contrast, and then finished coloring the page. For the outline, I'm going to use really dark colors to try to cover up some of the bleed through of the ink from the other side. Even though it did bleed through quite a bit from the other side, the colored pencils did a fairly good job of masking most of it, so you can't really tell that it had so many issues starting off. And then at the very end, I just got my stamps here, my little word stamps, and I wrote "Wish upon a star." I outlined it with a shimmering teal paint marker. Unfortunately, in the video, you can't really tell that it's sparkly, but still looks good. So for my second piece, I had this rabbit that I had already colored. It's been a work in progress for a while. I was just going to color the rabbit. I didn't film any of it because everyone was doing the rabbit and I didn't want to do what everyone else was doing, so I was just going to color it and leave it and just to fill up the coloring book. But after I looked at it, it really reminded me of kind of a nursery rhyme. So like the Mother Goose bedtime stories. That's what this page kind of had, a Mother Goose vibe to it. A really old school bedtime story look to it. So I turned it into a Silly Symphonies style art piece. So if you don't know what Silly Symphonies is, back in the 20s and 30s, Walt Disney did this series of cartoons called Silly Symphonies. And it was just like it sounds. It was cartoon that was accompanied by symphonies and orchestra. And can I just say, we totally need to bring back classical music in cartoons. I wish that would come back, because I think that's just great for kids to have this awesome orchestra, which I will say, to Disney's credit, a lot of their new stuff does have orchestra accompaniment. But like the classic stuff that every kid needs to be familiar with, I wish we would bring that back to cartoons. I just love the animation style of the Silly Symphonies. It is coming back in style, so I'm happy about that, but there's something about the animation style from the 20s and 30s that we don't get nearly enough of today. It's just great. One of their cartoons, I'm not sure which one what the name was, but it was the one where the trees are dancing. It actually was the first cartoon film to ever win an Oscar, maybe the only one to ever win an Oscar, but it won an Oscar. And as an adult, looking back on it, you really have to appreciate animation in its initial years, because the amount of creativity that it must have taken to be the first people to draw cartoons in this way. I mean, obviously, here in 2026, I can look back and say that a cartoon, when it's scared, the eyes bug out of its head, or its hair goes straight up. But I only know that that's the way it works is because of all these creators that, have come through history showing us the way that they saw the world. Really, they were brilliant at their craft. Now, I know this is not actually a cricket, he is a grasshopper, but there's only so many crickets out there. So, I did the ant and the grasshopper, and then on the other side I did Bucky Bug in the other corner, and then because there's a rabbit in this, I decided I had to add Toby the Tortoise from The Hare and the Tortoise. The Hare and the Tortoise was probably one of my favorite Silly Symphonies cartoons. On the ground, to make the ground, what I did is took pretty much every single color brown that I had, drew a bunch of humps and lines and ovals, and then with a solid color went over that with another colored pencil as kind of the base. And when you do that, it kind of blends out all those lines and bumps, and I think it makes it look pretty much like dirt. There may be a better way to do this out there, but this is just what I thought would work, and I think it works, so stuck with that. Then I used my paint marker for the hills in the background, tufts of grass with my paint pen. Just put some dots and some lines for the grass, nothing too fancy. Colored the sky, and then I drew some trees overhead to finish out the page. For my last piece, I am doing Mushu and the lucky bug, lucky cricket from Mulan. I colored in all my flowers and drew Mushu in front of everything. So I drew Mushu, put a little bit of paint down so I could kind of see where he was at so I could finish it, because it was one thing about altering coloring pages, it's hard to kind of work over the lines that are there. So sometimes if I get partially the way through and I know it looks okay, I'll go ahead and paint it so I can finish drawing it and get all the dimensions right. And then in retrospect, I should have drawn Lucky Bug a little bit bigger, but he's still there. So this is my other cricket for the day. Eddie Murphy is such a fantastic voice actor for kids. Donkey, Mushu, it's just great. Him and Robin Williams, like, I can't think of any other voice actors that were better than those two. Let me know down in the comments who you think the best voice actor is. Who am I forgetting besides Robin Williams and Eddie Murphy? Once I got all my flowers done, I needed to make it look more... I had to add some foliage that made sense to China because obviously Mulan is set in China. And so I added some bamboo in the background. For the bamboo, I did light green in the center, anything that was far away, with some kind of yellowish light coming through because it obviously didn't want it to be blue because he's close to the ground. And then the dark bamboo up close to the foreground. And I really liked the color when this was all done. So green, and I loved it. It just came out great. And for the ground, I did the same method I did for the dirt, just a bunch of different globs of color of green, and then I went over it with a solid green color to blend everything together. I did make a mistake here and outlined everything in a Sharpie. I honestly don't know what I was thinking. I never do this. I always use a pen, but I had a Sharpie there, and in my mind, I was supposed to outline it in Sharpie, and it was a bit too bold for the rest of the page. Still looks fine, but he definitely looks a little out of place because of how bold the lines are. If I could go back and change that, I definitely would. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I never dreamed I'd be as far into this coloring book as I've gotten. I may have to revise my statement on it. I feel so compelled to finish this that I'm going to finish this coloring book. I am determined. So make sure you keep tuning in to watch me finish this entire thing. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you go and watch my other Johanna Basford coloring book, Transformations. I'll leave a link in the description. And do me a favor, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe because it really helps the channel move forward. I'll see you guys next time.